Hello there, and welcome to another Talks episode. And in this week, this month, whatever edition of this Talks episode, we are talking about paint jobs that inspire us. Manus, I'm gonna leap in right into it, but I guess the first critical question for you is, as quite an accomplished painter yourself, what are you looking for? Like, what are you looking for in something that inspires you? Like, in terms of like, is it one thing in the model? Is it like the entirety? What really gets you going, so to speak?
Yeah. I knew we were going to do this one, but we kind of have I won't say a rule, but it's kind of an unwritten thing where we talk a bit about what is going to happen and we plan a bit, but to not have everything scripted, I don't go too deep. But I've obviously had some thoughts on the topic before we record, and I'll say, for me, there are kind of different things within inspiration. So inspiration can be, I kind of group them into two things, where one thing is a paint job or a model that inspires me so that I want to do it. And another one is a model or a paint job that inspires me, but not because I want to paint that one myself, but because it's something about it is just striking. And well, it's I love shiny things, and I really like high contrast. And oftentimes I'm also drawn to kind of like more of the cleaner look. Maybe not clean in the sense that it can be like have lots of colors, and it doesn't have to be painted smooth. But I'm not too much of a fan of kind of like the volumes just bleeding into each other. I really like that you can see highly defined volumes and shapes, and the color choices are something that I'm thinking more about, because it's something like it's a layer you can, like, if you see something, sometimes you don't really know why it's so good, so striking to you, why it jumps out, and obviously it can be lots of things. But for me, it is often okay. So it has some, it has high contrast. It is like the technical application is to a pretty high standard, and the color choices are spot on. So, well, those are the things that, and I will say that sometimes I'm inspired by things that I know I would never ever paint, and let's say a sanguineous model, for example, huge outstretched wings or something. And I'm not saying I would never paint it. I'm just saying it's not that I'm jumping straight into, okay, I'm getting sanguineous and painting wings, because I'm already a bit apprehensive about it. So I might one day, but I can still be inspired and feel, oh wow, this is really great looking. And yeah, and I will take some stuff here and some stuff there, and I will look at for example, how someone painted the color of some armor or whatever, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so this I could probably use later, and put it in the bank, and oh wow, those highlights right there, damn, it really pops out and makes the shine perfect. Okay, I'm bringing that. Wow, those details, that gem, those. So some of the paintworks, it's because I'm really overwhelmed by all of it, and it just works. Everything is great, and it's to a level where I'm wowed by it. But I'm pretty inspired by stuff also, like on the back of some details, right? So it could be also just, okay, so he put something on the base that's really clever actually. Maybe I could use that for something later or whatever. So I will say inspiration kind of takes two forms. Either it's because I want to do that model, or it's something where, oh wow, this is just, this is striking.
And I think we're obviously at different parts on our journey, and therefore maybe as a lower level painter, there is sometimes a double-edged sword with inspiration. It is like sometimes you will look at something and be like, this is an insurmountable peak. Like how can I even, a classic example, which is something I nearly put in, I didn't at the end, is Eric Swinson's Lolth miniature. That to me is a work of art in the same way as Sistine Chapel is a work of art. And it is inspirational to me, but it's not necessarily something that's like, hey, that's going to get me painting, because it's the pathway to that is so unimaginable. It's managing that is tricky. I think the only thing I would add to what you've said is it constantly amazes me how much I am inspired by the community and the little whips that someone will throw out there and the little pieces, and like inspiration in different ways. I will get inspired by Ollie's bases. I will then get inspired by Mia's latest paint job. I will see a trick that someone has done, and that inspires me to paint something a little bit different. I think the one issue I have when you get inspired mid-model is not then trying to do that on the model you're painting and understanding, no, you need to wait before you try this, otherwise you're going to make this look like a patchwork nightmare.
Yeah, for sure. I will add that I actually, so I kind of paint to a standard or a level or whatever, but it's not to say that I'm not finding inspiration in something that is maybe not to the same level. I have tons of paint jobs when I scroll through the Instagram feed, and I think all of them are great, and I draw a bit from here and from there and from so it's not to say that it has to be obviously the ones when I pick something, wow, this is really inspiring to me, and I have to kind of like pick it, what is some of the most impactful or something you could aspire to or whatever. Obviously I'm picking something that I feel are probably a bit above me, but it's not to say that I draw inspiration from almost everything. Yeah, I definitely do. And I will say another thing is, I know that not everybody feels this way, and I honestly feel a bit lucky that I've never felt when I saw something that was just, oh wow, this is insane, I don't know how to ever do it. It has never been discouraging for me, never ever. Not even once have I seen something and thought, wow, that dude is so much better, so I'll better not try that model. Never. It has always been inspirational in the same way that like you would go and look at something in an art museum, and it's not like that I think, well, I could recreate this. I definitely couldn't. But I can still take some inspiration and I can still feel motivated to do art. And because I know that art is so subjective, I wouldn't be doing the same thing anyways. I would be doing my take on something that could be inspired from it. Yeah, so I'm never discouraged. Never.
I wish I could say, kind of hand on heart, that I was that healthy about it. I don't think that's been my case historically. And I think as someone that tries to push themselves quite a lot in improvement, it can be dispiriting, not disparaging. The exception to that is when I was at MPO and seeing things in person. The in-person experience, and I know I've talked about it a few times, I'm like, this is incredible. But... and I'm taking inspiration from it, but I see the pathway in a way that I can't when it's an Instagram photo, when you can't see the scale or things like that. So I'd say that's been my exception, and something I'm really looking forward to in Essen is being back to seeing figures in the flesh, because MPO feels like it was a while ago now, and I'm really looking forward to getting that inspiration back, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know if have I told the story as we've recorded, I'm not sure, but I have a local game shop or game store, and they have a display cabinet with some fantastic models in there. And from I started to, I guess it's a couple of months ago, I was looking at them and thinking, God damn, these local masters painters are really good. I wish I could do something like that one day. It to me, it looks like it's possible. It's right there, and some of them you can see a bit of brush strokes, and you can see the life, and you can see all of those things. And so I knew, okay, this is something. Maybe I can't quite reach it, but it doesn't look like something that is impossible to do. It's right there, and you can see it with your own eyes. And it turned out it was actually the store owner's collection, and it's Swinson pieces and Aroba pieces and all kinds of pieces that he's bought online.
Those local masters, Swinson.
I genuinely thought that these were, because they might have had a local competition back when they just started out or whatever. So I was thinking maybe it's from there. It's just to say that sometimes even when you look at something that is extremely high level, it is just so much more real when you're there. And it won't ever be on a photo on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's my number one reason for going to competition, is so others can see my work, be inspired, and they can see this is achievable, and you can see that a human did it. Yeah, it's my number one reason.
Hot tip: get yourself to see minis in person.
Yes,
and I guess secondary hot tip is if you can work your life such that you see an Eric Swinson piece every time you go to buy paint, you'll probably be really driven to improve, in the future. So just get in touch with him, ask him how much a commission would be, and I'm sure everyone. That's no problem.
Yes, no problem.
Right, we'll leap into it then. So you've made 7 selections. I've made 3. I think because there's quite a lot that inspires me. I think your perspective is a bit more valuable here. But I have looked at each of the pieces that you've selected, and I will give maybe a slightly more beginner's thoughts on or journeyman. We're using that term now. Journeyman's thoughts on some of the pieces and the things that stand out to me. So without further ado, the first piece is from friend of Git Good and all-round amazing person, Onion Knight.
Yeah, this one is it's not a finish. I think he has progressed it more than this, but this one I took from socials just to not leak something I shouldn't. I took this one because this is an amazing example of something where I look at it and I would like to paint that model. I know already that I would do it a bit differently. Not that this isn't a masterful, like the execution on this is really good, and it's even better when more is colored in. But I also know that I would do it differently, but I'm still very inspired. I'm looking at some of the areas and especially the where the face is with the collar and the chest, and so from a sculpt perspective, it just really works. And the best way for me to kind of this sculpt is so good, I want to get into it, is when I see someone else do a banging job on it. It's just the truth. I sometimes will overlook a great sculpt just because I'm not that into that paint job. And this is a class example of exactly the opposite. I want to do the staff as a spear, and I want to do the sword without flames, but yeah, it's something I want to paint. Mm-hmm.
Do you find that it's useful? And this is a question. I don't know whether this is a me thing or a beginner's thing. It's useful to have these things as like a roadmap, because sometimes I'll be mid painting and I'm like, what the hell is this piece? And I'll check the heavy metal paint job and be like, I still don't know what this piece is. And so you then start searching. It's like, this person's interpreted. So the thing that stands out for me is on the thigh guards. Onion Knight's obviously done them as gemstones or kind of began working them in as gemstones. And I think obviously you could interpret them as gems. You don't have to. You can interpret them as metalwork and things like that. So do you find it useful to see how people have interpreted the materials?
Extremely, extremely. And it's something where, so and this this is not to turn it into a critiquing anything. So I won't critique on it at all. I'll just say that when I look at paint jobs that have already been done, I obviously look for what I think personally worked really well and what I would probably do a bit different because I think it works maybe to a less degree. And it's and that is not even from that is definitely not an objective view. That is from my subjective point of view where I'm like, well, I don't really, for example, on this one, I don't enjoy paint OSL. I think it almost always doesn't really work. It works best on photos, not too well on real life models. So taking it and putting it on something that I want to take to competition, possibly I'm not going to, because I don't want to risk it. So there are always some things where, okay, my subjective point of view is I probably couldn't nail this, and I don't want to risk it on a piece that I would really like to paint for or to a very high level. So yeah, I think it helps massively. Looking what is that piece? Oh, right. Oh, that's a gem. That is really clever. Yeah, you could do some nice gem work. Okay, so I take that and put it in the bank, and I remember that for when I go to the next one. And I will say, before I go into a project, I will look at 10 or 20 different renditions of the model just to be inspired. Look at what colors were used and where do reflections and lighting go and stuff like that. Yeah, I do. And then I kind of, okay, so now I have an idea, and I might pick one or two as my kind of like main references. And then I start mapping out, and I can kind of, if I'm on a bit of shaky ground, but I'm not too sure what to do here. And instead of like having to faff about, you can pull a reference and look, okay, yeah, they did that. Yeah, maybe that works pretty good. So I'll just implement it in my style. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a massive help. Yeah. I guess it's the same for you, right?
I think so. Like the question is often one of execution.
Yeah.
Getting I guess like a little personal into this. Like I will get very frustrated at myself when I can't execute something to a level that I've seen. And even like knowing, good example is looking at this figure. So like the thing that drew me into it when Onion Knight first posted it is the warmth in the flame reflection on the knee pad, on this like bestial knee pad it has. I love this. Like it's really nice.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous. And
yes.
I guess like similarly to that, above the head there is the long spire that is reflecting daylight and the flame. Just both gorgeous, and I, because I was midway through painting pots of an ultramarine non-metallic matte gold, I wanted to see how the warmth of the orange would look in it as a bounce light. And so I did it. Like I did something similar, and I was really happy with the result. It just, it wasn't blended as well as this. It wasn't executed. So it's like, should you get frustrated because you can't execute a blend as well as Onion Knight can? Like someone who I think has near flawless blends is like, no, you probably shouldn't. So use it carefully. I think what I find with me and how my brain works is I like getting the inspirational hit and then not studying it too hard, because then you begin treating it like a roadmap or like an instruction. I'm more just like, no, take the idea of warmth in your golds, take that away, then come back to something. So that's how I view it. Shall we move on then to your next selection?
Yes. Yeah.
Keyboards.
Yeah, it's just an amazing model. like the sculpt is very good, but the paint job on it is, in my opinion, pretty close to perfection. It is nice and clean, and it is really interesting because of the varied reflections in there. The colors work extremely well, at least for me. Having the teal and with the steel gold means that you have like kind of one color there. I know the gold has color in it, but it is pretty desaturated. And so the entirety of the scheme is kind of desaturated with one saturated color. Highlights are a bit desaturated, but one striking color. And to me, that is almost the epitome of cleanliness, and it's so pleasing to me. Nothing like you can go deep on it, and you can find details and reflections very, very cleverly and all of those things. But definitely the entirety of the piece is just pleasing. Yeah. That's why something like this is extremely inspirational to me. And you can see how because this is a bit of a larger scale, you can go a bit more crazy with reflections and stuff like that. But I will say that for the non-metallics I take quite a bit of inspiration from larger scale, because you might not be able, well, you definitely aren't able to copy it one for one down to something that is 32 instead of, let's say, 75. But if you can take some of the key points and implement them, you will have more interest. That's at least that's the goal. It's an amazing model. I could stare at it all day.
I think because when you sent this through, I really took the time to sit down and study it, and I perhaps hadn't studied it as much as I should have, because there are two versions of this model. I think both are stellar paint jobs, and maybe I was drawn most to the other one. But when I was actually looking at this, is understanding just what a spectacular piece of work it is. The work of the rondel in the shadow is when I understood what I was looking at, because your eyes are just like, oh, it's in shadow, but then you're like, no, it's painted in that way in such a masterful way that you just read it without understanding. It's like that for me was the call of like, get braver when you're doing non-matte in shadow, because my goodness, the effect is incredible. You mentioned it, but the fact that the gold, even though it is a desaturated gold, and the steel are so clearly separate, despite being both incredibly high value, is something I've not yet quite managed to wrap my head around.
And it's really hard. It helps that it is a bit larger scale, but it is really, really hard.
The gemstones, when you understand that there is a little bit of purple glazed into the very top, so they get this beautiful like purple, blue, tealy like gemstone. Like, it is beautiful. And I think because we were fresh off it, well, not fresh now, nearly a month ago, but the skin, the forward hand is outrageous.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it is a spectacular piece, and this is one of those that the more I've looked at it, the more I've appreciated it, and the more I'm ultimately inspired by. Excellent choice.
Yeah, and one of the things that has me even more inspired, I think, is that I won't say this was overshadowed, because it's not like it was overshadowed, but there was a version that act like the one that won, right? And it is much more colorful, and it has some really sophisticated reflection, and all of that. Is that, well, so you're obviously drawn to that. So for me to look at this one and go deep and really study the things is kind of like you digging and, oh wow, this is a gem. I found a gem. God damn, because everyone is kind of looking at that one thing that, well, broke people's minds. And it's not like that is a fantastic piece. So it's not, we're not talking about who should win and who shouldn't. I'm just saying that it was nice for me that these two were actually posted side by side.
Yes.
Because it helped this one not get lost in, well, social media and and those things for me.
Yeah, and like
piece.
as well, understanding that you can have two different artistic directions, both masterfully painted, and actually separating the two is just a question of personal preference over any. You know, there is no objectivity in art, unfortunately.
No,
so sadly not. So you just have to like what you like. But I think as I've looked at both pieces more, I found things I love in each of them that are so different from each other, and that's something to be celebrated ultimately.
Yeah, it really is.
It's one of my picks.
Oh yeah. It's fantastic, huh?
Yeah, so I don't know whether you know this, Manus, but this Arnau guy, he's pretty good painter.
I think if he keeps at it, he could probably make a name for himself and do something good. I mean,
maybe this is obviously
this is okay, but if he put the work in and really, you know,
really works on his refinement, things like that. The thing that I often have not necessarily struggled with, but my style is often enjoys a bit of desaturation more, and I think one of the things I'm going to work on as I go forward is working more color saturation. And I've seen this piece a few times, and it was brought to MPO. I got to see it in person, and I honestly could have stared at it all day because it's just like, number one, a masterful like color scheme thrown together, and how everything is so saturated but works in harmony.
That's the main thing for me too. And
the softness of it as well. Like it is a piece that just exudes this softness, and as I looked at it and kind of studied it, like this is something that I would love to paint one day, to have a go at emulating it, getting something close to this, because it is wonderful, and you know the softness is evident in the Valkyrie, but to me it's almost just taken to an nth degree here, and it is like it's a piece I really appreciate, and almost like you can juxtapose how that, you know, even the locket on the neck stands out more because of the work around it. Like this is just a gorgeous, wonderful piece to me.
Yeah, I think when I look, for example, when I look at something like this, I'm not thinking, well, I'm going to paint this model. I would probably never, and I would probably also never like go saturated in this way, because it's really not my style. And so I'm not saying never, but probably never. But dang, the respect it commands to see someone putting saturated red magenta all the way up to green is absolutely stunning. The respect it commands is nuts. It is really, really clever, and it is really, really colorful and still quite simple.
Yes.
It's such an Arnau piece.
Yeah, completely. And when I've shown this to friends, because I'm one of those insufferable bores that tries to get their friends into the hobby, it's a case of hey, have a look at this, take it away, and then you're like, well, what color is her skin? But it's green skin. Of course, it's green skin. And then you show them, it's like, oh. Like, as a percentage, it's way more 50-50. Really.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's amazing, and the way it contrasts, and it's just fantastic. It's a fantastic piece, and I think it's pieces like this that really, like, there is a reason why Arno is regarded as one of the very best out there, right?
Yes.
It's because of pieces like this.
And it's good because he's slowing down and giving everyone a chance to catch up. He's not just banging great minis out every week, it feels like at the moment.
Ah, right. No, yeah, every week. Yeah. Oh, so I spent 10 hours on this one. And
Oh, yeah. Threw this together on a weekend. It's all right.
yeah.
Moses Yao.
Yeah.
Now, this is a
This-
Manus piece. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it really is, in the sense that it is extremely desaturated, and because it has steel and or silver or whatever, and it has gold, but because they are so close, it's something you have to like really look for. So it stands out as an like an entirety of an armor piece. You can see how it's supposed to be old elven. I think the lighting on this, and oh my god, it is just. I really enjoy looking at this. It's so gorgeous. It is so harmonious, and it is exciting while being almost no color. It's so
Yes.
desaturated. It's
Yeah.
is what I take from this one. So it's just it's one of those where I look at it and I think to myself, well, you can actually, if you execute it perfectly, go almost grayscale and just have fun with that, because it's something, as I said before, also with the elf, where I'm thinking more and more about I don't want to have too much color clashing and stuff like that, because I'm not in the Arno camp at all. So I actually prefer one color or one overarching color scheme, or whatever you want to call it. Paint something in mostly green or mostly purple or mostly blue or mostly, I really love this one, and I take inspiration from the reflections and how the lighting is on, and how it's just amazing.
Yeah, and like you say, even though it is a desaturated piece, there's still a startling amount of color in there. You know, there is.
Yeah.
There's the red,
There is.
and the red's on the blades, the red gemstone in the shield. There's a little bit of green in the shield. You've got the yellows and the gold, the blues. Like there's a lot of colors there that are quite far apart on the wheel, and to work them together harmoniously because it's desaturated.
Desaturated, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. I think the thing that stood out for me when I was looking at this, which is good practice point, and something that I'm going to try and bear in mind, is the scale mail. There's the one scale near the knee that is higher value than those around it, because it's clearly like jutting up slightly, and understanding that painting in perfection makes your work look way more realistic than rendering everything perfect. It's such a cunning little trick there.
Yeah, and what I really like about it is that if you had this one in hand, that one scale might not be angled differently at all.
Yes.
But it looks like it because it's painted as if it was.
Yeah.
And it's such a neat trick to show shine. If you look at the knee, the hidden knee within the robe, you can clearly see that he has metallic armor in there.
Yes.
And it's one of the things I think I've talked about it a bit before, where you don't necessarily like, if you have, for example, non-metallics in shadow, you don't forego the higher value completely. You just limit it massively. So you do still need kind of an edge that catches light, or a scale that is bent a bit upwards, or a kneecap that just has a shine point, because it's those bling points that sells the illusion of something shiny. And it's just rendered perfectly. I really love this work. Moses is nuts.
Going from the desaturated to the saturated.
Yes, and this one is. I took this one specifically because I have actually used the orange lately on the
Votan.
Yeah. specifically because I saw it here. Because I saw, okay, so when you do oranges, instead of starting them out as a kind of like browns, if you put more color, they are actually like they get so much more punch. Um, and well, Cole has so many pieces to pick from that are absolutely masterpieces. But yeah, I chose this one because it's such a it's a stunning piece with like focus on the lighting, but also the color interaction, which is something that he's mastering too. It's yeah, well, to me he's one of the very best out there.
And
So yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I'm still not sure what, like when I first looked at this, whether it's TMM or NMM.
On the metallics,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they are NMM.
He's a bit good that Dave Caldwell, isn't he?
Yeah. He knows what he's
right.
doing. I mean, and I actually had a scroll through his entirety of his Instagram again the other day because I'm okay. So sometimes I just pick an Instagram profile and I scroll through all of it. And then I clicked the photo, one of the earlier ones, and I was like, this is only 6 years ago. What happened? God damn, I need some of that juice. I do.
Get the
It's
Caldwell
just-
juice.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that juice is just keeping at it and trying all the things and never settling for. Yeah.
No, there's definitely painting enhancing juice out there. We'll find it one day.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is, and I think the thing that stands out to me, like just because I hate Eldar, is the bass. Like how you've talked about this, and obviously it's in your Votan as well. Like that purple into orange, like you say, it gives it that punch, but how that purple is then worked into the base, and you just have this really nice saturated piece that works through those colors. I understand why people like Eldar, and certainly in schemes like this. Not for me, but yeah, gorgeous.
No. And I will say another thing with Eldars, and a reason why I actually picked this from a lot of his works is that this one is 32 millimeter. This is a small model, right?
Yeah, tiny.
So doing this on something that is that small is no small feat at all, and why it's something that maybe translate even a bit better for me personally as I paint Warhammer models. These Elders are really spindly.
They're small, little bit small.
Yeah, they are really spindly.
Oh, I've still not been able to get this out of my head. I've tried. Lord
I
knows
almost
I've tried.
Yeah. I almost picked it.
And understandably so, because
yeah, it does it all. Almost.
it does
at
it
least.
all.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when I was thinking about this piece last, like it does help that I painted this model. That can sometimes give you an appreciation. Like it's almost like reverse inspiration. Like, oh, I've painted it and now I've seen this. Do I want to repaint it? Maybe I do. But I think one of the things I really like about this, and in terms of like why I find it inspirational, is not like the decisions around the creative choices are obviously first rate, but it demonstrates a mastery of fundamentals in a way that few pieces do. And I know like the heavy metal style gets shtick sometimes for the way it approaches certain things. But number one, it looks spectacular in person, even though it can sometimes suffer a bit on camera. I don't think it suffers here at all.
No.
But you don't get to do the heavy metal style without having mastery of the fundamentals. And this piece is just raw fundamental mastery.
Yeah.
And an understanding that if you are, you know, certainly someone that's trying to improve, just by focusing on the fundamentals, you can move yourself to an incredible place, an incredibly high pace by beginning to master and appreciate those. And God damn this piece. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I personally, I look at it and I think it is one of those pieces once again where what I've taken from it is actually the fact that it's really harmonious. It's greens within greens. It's a dark green, the steel has a bit of green in it, very dark. It has a green cape, and again, I took inspiration from this one. I'm painting a Stormcast right now, and I picked other greens, but it's somewhat like this. And oh boy, it looks so good. Yeah.
One day I'll paint a face this good as well. That's what I've decided when I'm grown up.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah, when we. Yeah.
Well, when we decide to take this seriously, maybe I'll get around to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Another Dave.
Yeah, this is another Dave one, and I picked this one because this is so right up my alley. It's 40 mil. It's a Space Marine. It's full non-metallics. It's something you can get lost in, as we see it on a photo from a bit of distance. It looks completely smooth and really nicely executed. And then you zoom in and you can see that there is micro brushed texture on it too.
Yes.
Oh boy, it's this one is just really pleasing. I love all about this. This one got me to paint Dante.
Really? This is the Genesis?
Yes. Yep. This one got me to. Well, and David saying you have to do a Dante. I'll even ship it to you. So okay. So I have to look for gold non-metallics, and this one, it was the one that actually made me do it. Obviously, I was watching Richard paint on his, and then thinking, maybe I should. And then Dave posted this one, and oh boy, yeah,
it's a real work of art.
Yeah,
and that's you mentioned it, but like it is such a fight back against that. Oh, you need the non-mats need to be perfectly smooth, and like the brushwork here is clearly aping like a processed metal finish. Like brushed. That's why it's there. My God, it works. It works so well. The knee pad in particular, I could stare at all day in terms of how the hell you get something spherical with circular brushwork patterns is frankly out of this world to me. And I just think it works so brilliantly, to execute non-mats, but then to execute non-mats with an added complexity that breathes life into them is really quite special.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a signature of Dave. He doesn't really paint in that like real clean glazed over anything. He actually likes a bit of texture, even if it's dotted on or scratched on or whatever it is. And I think it's fantastic. It shows more like it shows life to me that you can get with the super smooth kind of pieces, but you would have to do it in kind of like an honor way for it to not look too like sterile.
And I guess a question: was the cloak something of an inspiration for the inside of Bastian's cloak for you?
Yes. I didn't know it before I actually revisited this one. Not this time, but I've looked at this countless times. But yes, I noticed that, that's probably where I got it from. Because I had an idea in my mind, and that's why I say I take inspiration everywhere, and I kind of put it in the bank, and then when I try and execute something, it's never something fresh that I just cooked up, it's something that I take like bits here and bits there, and I always do it like that. I'm not visual thinking, and I'm not like artistic in that way. So my originality definitely stems from, well, taking a bit here and a bit there, and yeah. So it was yeah.
Another all right painter, Ericsson.
Oh yeah, it's. I heard he painted this one during a toilet break, actually. Yeah, just over the sink when he's just slapping a bit of paint on, and then 10 minutes, and he's really really quick, and him and Arno, for example, are both kind of that school where they don't muck about. When they paint with that brush, it counts. And yeah, I'm looking at this, and it is fantastic. The volumes are rendered really well. Doing black armor with like a high contrast and still having it look black and soft, not that easy. Doing white, not that easy. And you can get away with some things on a smaller scale that you can't really on bigger scale. And yeah, everything works perfectly here. There's a cast shadow. There is like you have the focal point really clear. It's yeah. I really enjoy looking at this one. It's not like it's super sophisticated, and it's not like, well, you could probably find something from Swinson. Well, you could find something from Swinson that is maybe to a higher standard or whatever. But this one is something that speaks to me because of the universe, and it is quite simple and really well executed, in the sense that the technique and what is shown is not something that is like, it doesn't slap you in the face at all.
Yes. It's it could have only been painted by someone who deeply understands the universe, because there's such an understanding of that. Like, even as for Swinson, a quicker paint job is like you can only do it quickly if you know the universe, the feel, the aesthetic. The thing I still love is the rear foot with the little dusting on it. Like, I think that's something that's often overwrought a little bit in models, but yeah, you see it here. Like, obviously the whole flipping thing is incredible, but it's one of those I was looking at. I was like, yeah, he's quite good, this Swinson guy, and he definitely understands light. I understand why people go to him for that.
He knows what he's doing. Yeah, and it's one of the things actually I really like about Swinson's work, is that he almost never goes over the top to show something. It's an added something. It's just like, yeah, it would look like this, a bit of dusting. He could have slapped dusting all over those feet, but he didn't. And he painted in cleverly a cast shadow, well, not one, but many cast shadows. And you could have chosen to forgo them completely, or you could have had more of that area just shadowed, but he just doesn't. And it's what I really, really like, that it's not slapping you in the face. It's just always well executed.
Yes. And like, again, for the weathering is there. It's not overdone. It's beautiful. Like, it's pitched just right for this model, this scale, and this scene, which is pretty bloody good there, Eric Swinson.
Yeah.
Right, last two, and I think I'm first. Being good painters, Rich Cray.
I almost took the autark he's redoing or revisiting.
It is good. It is.
So I'm happy you took this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rich is formative for me, because he was probably the first like pro painter that I took a real interest in, and so like there are kind of like nostalgia things there, but also, hey, I really like Nurgle, rich grey does real good Nurgle, and I've seen this piece in images. I've seen it in the flesh at MPO. It's stunning. Like if I'm thinking about what's the standard I want to get my Nurgle painting to, it's this 100%. This is what I am aiming for, and like the ability to paint armor paneling to look organic. Like there's veins in it, which is just so cool. The understanding that verdigris doesn't drip down on non-brass/copper bits. It shouldn't anyway, yet it does here, and it looks cool just because, like, hey, it's an artistic leap that I'm making. Rendering maggots eating flesh and having like how blood bleeds onto the armor panels. It, for me, like, it shows as well that inspiration doesn't have to come from completed pieces. It's just like
No.
just seeing something and being like, wow, what a thing. What do I want to try? And God damn, this is so good. I could stare at it all day quite happily.
Yes. The ability to paint something dirty clean, I guess, or
yes,
it's really, really, really hard, to the point that most never really master it.
Yes,
it's doing a verdigris up or rusted up or like oxidized metals, doing them in non-metallics it is incredibly hard. And I think one of the for me the inspirational or the fascinating thing about this, and I will say the same, Richard is definitely formative for me too. I mean, I kind of have a style that is I'd say inspired by, like, it's kind of him and Flamion squished into one, and almost like so I put less dramatic light and but I try to go for the details and a bit more texture, and I will say that the one thing with Richard that I just always get kind of lost in, or like it is so dreamy to me, is that almost all of what kind of was what came to life here kind of did it on quote unquote accident. Like his way of painting, his way of expressing almost always has it so that something comes up and he leans into it as he's painting, because he's painting with a bit, like, always when he begins a paint job, it's a bit rougher and it's a bit quicker and it's a bit scratching around and squiggling around and stuff like that. And sometimes nothing happens, and he refines it over and smooths it out, but sometimes something happens and he leans into it hard as he goes. And that can only happen if you, like, doing those things deliberate as he's done there, really, really hard. And I don't think, I mean, is Sober the only one who does that, or maybe some others, but I'm just saying that you need to be at an insanely high level to get those things to kind of come to life.
Yes. And to have the confidence to do them as well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. You see something, oh, there's a bit of something I can hold on to, and you build on top of it. And you can only do it if you kind of constantly reevaluate what is going on.
Yeah, look at what you're painting and understand it.
Yeah.
It's a process that you ultimately control. Yeah. Okay then. Final piece.
I love this one. I remember when it was posted, I think the first work in progress, and I looked at it and I was thinking, please tell me this is not 32 mil. I just cannot. This is fantastic. It is so moody, and the colors work so well while being quite punchy, and the metallics are amazing. And because it's a bit bigger scale, you can get some really lovely looking reflections into that blue teal armor too. I absolutely love this piece. It's
It's
fantastic.
funny because like we said at the start almost like you're drawn to the non-mets and things like that, and I'm probably more of like an organics fan and things like that. But because you showed me this yesterday, I've not been able to stop thinking about the gold since you showed it to me.
No.
I've tried to.
It's just,
It's so good.
Yeah, and I think like to me the reason why this is a bit more exceptional, I guess, is that it is actually mostly trim. So like the space you have to do something on is quite limited. So you have to be a bit creative, and you can't do that whole, okay, so I know this area is my bright area, so I can just put a big blob of bright right here. Then I have some dark, and then I have a reflection, and then I can start to make extra things within it or whatever. Where this one, it doesn't have much space. You have to be extremely precise and put some thought into where do I want details within the trim and those metallic details to be. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love it.
So I guess that's our whirlwind tour of of models like gone through. Do you have any like closing thoughts, Manus, in terms of like, I one of the things I really like is when you said you just occasionally just pick someone to start scrolling through all their Instagram. That was really interesting to me. Like, how do you find inspiration?
I go through Instagram. Luckily the algorithm sometimes gives you something where you're maybe not following them already, but because one of whoever you're following did a comment or a share or a like or whatever, you get presented it, and that just means sometimes I discover, oh wow, someone new. Well, I say sometimes, it's multiple times every day. So, and sometimes I will, when something like a paint job pops out to me, I go to their profile and I scroll through, maybe not all of it, but most of it actually, to see who are they and how do they like to paint. Because as much as we say, I don't know if I have a definite style, you probably do. and the easiest way to see it is just a collection of pictures of what you've painted, and they are conveniently gathered at on your Instagram page.
Yes, you could really easily scroll through, go back a few years and see the progression.
I really like it, and sometimes I also go into profiles to see how are they actually evolving. Did they start at some point and then go through some things and end up where they are today, or have they done more of the same, or whatever it is? And it is extremely inspiring for me. So yeah, I do a fair bit of scrolling on Instagram.
And it's one of the things I'd love to do actually, maybe at some point with the community, is have people submit kind of maybe like a model every few months, and then do like almost like a time lapse of see how this person has progressed over a year, 2 years, 3 years. Because I think that improvement is very hard to visualize when you're doing it.
Yes.
And we rarely take the time on ourselves to look at our own progress. And I'd love to visualize that for a few people and say, okay, well, you don't think you've improved. Let's look at this time lapse. Oh, suddenly begin to see it because you don't study that often.
No,
Banking that for a future video.
Yeah, exactly. It's the thing where if you look at in the mirror every day, you don't think you change. But people doing those, taking photos every day for 10 years, well, they do change.
See it. Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Right. Well, I shall draw this to a close. I hope, dear listener, dear viewer, you found this interesting. I hope you found a bit of inspiration that you can take forward into the future. And just, I think probably the key point, and the one I'd echo, because I think you made it really well, Manus, is just understand inspiration is all around you, and sometimes you're not even going to be consciously aware of it, but just embrace it and find communities, places to talk about it, because hell, it's a lot of fun, and understand that what excites and motivates you may not do the same for others, and try and see what they can see. That will probably also benefit you as a painter and as someone that's trying to improve moving forward.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So for now, until next time, goodbye.